Hi, everyone. This is Joshua Hoffman, and welcome to another episode of the Masters in Marketing Agency podcast, where we deconstruct the why and how agency owners found their success and discuss a few things they learned along the way. Today, I have Joe Giovannoli, the founder and CEO of 9Sail's, a digital marketing firm that specializes in working with law firms to aid them in achieving their growth goals by leveraging SEO, paid search, content creation, and digital PR services. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I'm going to say a few words right now, and then I want you to pick one and then just go in any direction that you want to with those. So it's going to be, and I think these are from your LinkedIn, wine, bourbon, golf, and outdoors. Okay, go.
How do I pick? It's like picking your favorite kid.
I'll give you two.
Oh man, I don't know. I guess wine and bourbon. I love both of them. So we pick one.
Favorite wine and favorite bourbon.
Yeah, so favorite wine is actually Trefethen's, which is a California Napa Valley winery. Their Reserve Cab, by far my favorite. I probably have like 30 bottles in my wine fridge of all different years and vintages. And favorite bourbon is Angel's Envy. It's I like to say that I found it before it was cool.
Yeah, I think we might have talked about this a little bit before. That's like me with glass animals. I feel like I found them before they were
yeah
cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Now business stuff. I understand your first business was actually something you started as a school project. Can you kind of talk a little bit more about that and if and how it kind of guided you to your marketing world now?
Yeah, sure. So when I was in college, we were assigned a project to write a business plan. And, my question to my professor was, why would I write a business plan for a business I'm not going to start? The project was to write it on a specific industry. I actually don't even remember the industry that they asked us to write it on. And I said, listen, I don't have interest in that. I said, can I write a business plan on a business that I might actually be interested in starting? And if we can start it and actually get a client and prove that we've been able to execute our business plan, can I have an A? And, after some back and forth, he agreed to let myself and a partner write up this business plan. And so we wrote a business plan for and started a social media marketing agency for small to mid-sized companies. And this was, 2011, it's probably 2010, 2011. So social media for small businesses, like they were on it, but they were just getting onto it. It was much of a, bigger business landscape. And it's crazy to say that sitting here in 2023, social media is like every day, right? Like this is the beginning phases of when businesses started to get there. And so we were off and running. We had a couple of clients that we were operating, and we were able to present this to our class and to some of the professional staff that was at the school. And long and the short of it, I got the grade that I had requested to get. So so I ran that business for a couple of years after the project. And, actually ended up, when I graduated, I ended up going to work for a marketing agency. I brought in my social media knowledge. I went in as a business development person, but that experience really helped me to catapult into the marketing agency world.
Did you sell the business to that first job at all? Did you bring the book of business into that business?
So no, we when I went into the business, I had a couple of clients that I had been working with. So, being able to sell them all the services that this firm had was great. And so I was able to do that. So for me, it was kind of, I knew that wasn't going to be my future business. And I knew that I wasn't ready to be a business owner at the time, nor frankly, did I think I wanted to be after that experience for a few different reasons. But I was able to bring in some of my contacts and was able to build a pretty nice book of business for the couple of years that I was there.
Why do you think you didn't want to be a business owner then?
I had a bad partner experience, my first time out the gate, like many people do, because they just don't know what they don't know, and they don't know how to set some of the ground rules and set some of the boundaries, and frankly, don't know what they're vetting, right? So once that happened, I kind of pushed it out of my mind. I also working for a small agency at the time, I had a lot of exposure to, how things worked and, in terms of, going out and getting sales and hiring people. And, I saw how we were growing. And at the time it didn't interest me. I was like, wow, that seems like a lot of headache. I don't know that I want to do it. So, for those reasons, really, I never thought that I would start a business. That wasn't the goal.
Even more interesting. I've started two companies. The first, all of our founders were fine and dandy. We're still friends today. The second one, I'm cool with all of them, but two of them may have had a little bit of an issue too. So, are there any kind of warning signs that you could have identified or ways to avoid, having a bad partner, or do you think you just have to jump in and you'll learn later?
Yeah. So, hiring, dating, and working with a partner and finding a partner for your business are all virtually the same, right?
Oh,
You need to know what you're looking for. You need to know what you're trying to achieve, and you need to make sure that the person that you are doing that with is aligned with those same goals and values. I have had four business partners, excuse me, over the course of owning, my two businesses, right? So, actually three. Sorry, I take that back. Three businesses. I had a short stint early on when I owned 9Sail that we were doing some restaurant marketing stuff like that. I was doing it with a friend of mine. But what I've learned from each one of those situations, and now to my current partner in the business, who him and I are 100% aligned on our values. We're 100% aligned on the vision for where the company's going. Without question, he's also been in the business for 5 years, so he is somebody that bought into the business. So, you really have to make sure you're aligned all the way through. And the only way, unfortunately, I think to figure that out in most cases is to have a few, misfires before you finally find the right person to work within your business.
And last question on that first company: how did you guys or you get your first customer?
Walked in the door. Just walked into a gym. I asked to meet the owner. I told him I was a college student working on a project. Got me through the gatekeeper and said, "Hey, listen." I said, "This is where I'm at. I wrote this business plan for this business. We started it. We're operating it. The goal isn't really for us to make a ton of profit. We want to prove that this model works. Can we have your business?" We charged them $1,000 a month to do social media, which wasn't insignificant, right? And it was good.
Yeah,
It was good beer. It was good beer money.
Yeah.
But we worked with that client for, I think, 9 months, something like that. We learned a lot. We learned a lot about the things that we needed, the tools we needed. So yeah, I just walked in the door and asked for their business.
I gotta say, being able to say you're a college student, like milk that while you can type thing.
Yeah, yeah, right.
You can't say that. It's like now you're a business person, and like now I don't want to talk to you, and it's a lot harder. So no, that's I love that.
I will tell you something though. I unless you're like Mark Zuckerberg or, and of course that just saying that name is super controversial, right? Because people all have their own opinions about him. But unless you're like a Mark Zuckerberg or a Jeff Bezos or something where, you have this ability to build out, some amazing platform, or you have some coding gift or something like that, and you have a vision for kind of what you're thinking about maybe doing, Mark Zuckerberg is an example. The stories are that his father offered him a McDonald's franchisor to go to Harvard, right? So he had a lot of the means that he needed to get to where he needed to go, but you're probably not well suited in college to start your business, right? And I'm glad I tried, right? Because it taught me a lot, and I came into the working world with some education, some school of hard knocks, if you will, right? Because I learned a few things along the way. But I don't even know that when I started my company the first time, I was totally equipped to do this business, right? And I learned a lot along the way. So, I always tell people, I lecture at my alma mater a lot. I guest lecture, and I tell students, I say, go get big experience, get big business experience, go get small company experience, soak up everything that they do and learn from it, because that's going to help you if you decide to be an entrepreneur and you decide to start a business. That's going to help you to set yourself up for success, and you'll actually be prepared to do it rather than flying by the seat of your pants and hoping that it becomes profitable.
Man, where were you in my college classes? I needed to hear that. I jumped in my first startup way too early. I was not prepared. I didn't have enough. Like, I was on the sales side, and I was never taught like anything on the sales side besides this 2-month door-to-door business that I did. So yeah, you could have saved me a few years of headache. Had I heard that from you. How did you find your current business partner?
So he grew up 8 doors down from me. He's 6 years younger than me, I believe. He was my neighbor. And so it's funny. I actually didn't hire him into the business at the time. I had my prior business partner. He needed somebody to come on as an intern. Brian was in college at the time. This is 5.5 years ago, and needed somebody to do some work at the time, and we needed an intern, so we hired Brian, and the rest is kind of history. I bought out my business partner. Brian's been in the business, been director of operations for like 2 years approximately, maybe 2.5 years. And, last year bought into the business as a partner. So as a minority partner. So. Yep.
No, that's great. I might ask to interview him as well, because most of the time we're interviewing founders, but one of my favorite episodes that we recorded was someone who actually, I think, also started as an intern and grew their way up to CEO president. And nice. It was just like a great story. So obviously, we try to focus on people starting a business and marketing firm and everything like that. But, I'm sure there's some listeners that don't necessarily want to be the founder, but still want to, get to that point of president, CEO, or COO. So really interesting. Taking a step back now, do you mind telling us a little bit more about your agency?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So first thing that I'll tell you is that we typically don't reference ourselves as an agency. We call ourselves a firm. And the reason we do that,
firm? Damn it.
It's okay. It's okay. And I'll tell you why, right? So the terms agency and firm with the people we work with, which is our law firms, right? They have different connotations. In any industry, you're going to have a different connotation with each one of those words, right? When you think of an agency, you think of like, agency of record, design agency, creative agency. We are so specialized and so specific that and I always joke with our team, right? Like, we have a firm set of services that we provide. Therefore, we are a firm, right? And for us, it's just about, semantics of the word, right? But so we work with law firms. We help them to grow, as you said at the top of the call in your intro. And we do that through search engine optimization and paid search, which by the way, are kind of where we have always cut our teeth. I can tell you a little bit of backstory about that if you want, but where we've always cut our teeth. And, in the last couple of years, content creation and digital PR services, became a big part of what we started to do for our clients, because it's like the sawdust theory. I don't know if you ever heard of somebody say, sawdust. So working at like a wood mill or some sort of furniture place, right? They cut wood. When you cut wood, what happens? You create sawdust. You could either throw the sawdust out, or you can take that sawdust, repackage it, and sell it to be an absorbent or some kind of agent of some kind, compound of some kind, and use it, right? People use sawdust to sweep things up. There's a lot of uses for it. So very similar, both content creation and digital public relations were sawdust of our business. We were actually doing and touching most of it, but we were never really packaging it as a service, and we weren't really putting a ton of emphasis around it. So we saw this opportunity to grow that out. And these are all services that law firms consume, right? So they're things that they hire service providers for. And so that is why we've provided the services that we've provided for as long as we have.
I'm might start to become obsessed with this sawdust theory. You couldn't have said anything probably more relevant to me right now. I have this obsession with trash businesses. I just think it's like the best business. If you can find the right trash business, it's got to be one of the best business models out there. And I actually just started trying to form my own fire starter with sawdust and like this unique mushroom and everything.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I got like, goosebumps. I'm like, get out of here! That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
You
No,
mentioned,
it's huge.
sorry. You mentioned backstory of cutting your teeth, and you said you could dive into that. You knew I was going to ask that question, so I'd love
Yeah,
to.
I figured. So yeah, we started as a full service marketing agency providing websites, creative services like branding and logos and all that, content creation, SEO, paid search, and grew the business pretty quickly. My first 18 months in business grew the company to be over $250,000 in revenue. Having had zero experience in doing this, I was like, wow, this is this is easy. And I hired way too many people. I learned a lot of lessons, right? And so decided, and I'm a big fan of John Warrillo's book Built to Sell. And it was a very similar situation. It was, we had all of these fires burning around us of website projects that were, people weren't happy with, because people are almost never happy with a website project when they're done. They take too long, opinions change, they talk to family and friends and they get their opinions, and then those flood into their head, and they, everything that they loved yesterday, they don't love today because somebody said something. Anyway, so all these fires were burning around us, and we were, we had a couple of SEO clients at the time, and we were getting nice messages once a week. Like, hey, just closed $100,000, case, hey, just settled $1 million case that, made the firm $300,000. Like, thanks so much for all your work. This is really working. And, I had this moment of clarity, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Let's just do this. Let's just do this because we do it really well. And so we had to make some tough decisions. We let go most of our staff. We let go most of our clients. We had to do that in a way where we had to deliver on the work that we had agreed that we would do. But then we helped to introduce them to new partners who could continue along the journey with them that would get us out of it. And that took about 12 to 18 months to get out of. But we made this decision to go SEO and then eventually paid search. And then fast forward another year, 18 months. I remember sitting in my conference room, my director of operations and now partner will tell you this conversation, sitting in the conference room. And I said, I only want to go after law firms and construction companies. And we had one law firm and 3 construction companies on our books at the time. And my, at the time, business partner was like, what? Why would we do that to ourselves? Why wouldn't we work with everybody so that way we could work with everybody and actually make a ton of money? And I was like, no, specialty. We need to be specialized. Like we have specialty services. We want to be specialized. And so, and then fast forward another 2 years, we're just law firms, right? Like, that was our core focus. We hired a marketing director out of a law firm to help us to focus on just law firms, right? And the rest is history. So that was kind of our journey. But SEO was always really where we were really good. Didn't realize we were really good until we committed to it, and that's why we did what we did.
The customers you got rid of, in hindsight, would you have said no to them like in the beginning, or do you think that you had to learn those lessons to get to the point that you're at now?
Yeah, we would have. I had no idea what I was doing. So of course, we took on anybody that had budget, and I wasn't savvy enough at the time to figure out what profitability meant, or, I was hiring people. I was saying, okay, if the project was $5,000, I'm going to pay you $1,500 to do the work. That was initially, I started with a contractor, and I wasn't getting the quality I needed because I was only paying $1,500, right? Like they could make more money elsewhere. And then when I hired a team, when projects stalled because a client, we all know how websites work. It's a 3-month, it should be 2 to 3 month project that stalls because the client gets busy, and it's a 6-month project. Well, milestone payments aren't coming in when they're supposed to, and you still have payroll to make. So, I wouldn't have. Knowing now, I would have just avoided that whole part of the industry entirely, and just been a specialist right out of the gate because it's so much easier to run the business that way.
Man, again, where were you during my game plan days? How did you guys? I wish by that I mean I wish we went more niche. Also, I wish we didn't focus on everyone that does group bookings. I wish we stuck to our own, whether there's event venues or whatever. How did you guys get your first customer? And how did you guys get to that $250,000?
So first customer was somebody that I knew from my previous agency life. So I had worked at a the marketing agency, and I left and I got headhunted by an agency that was in Hoboken, New Jersey. And while I was there, I was reached out to by somebody that I had spoken to in the past, and he said, "Hey, I do really want to do a website, but I really wanted to hire you to do it. Can we work together?" Which was kind of one of the catalysts for me starting the company, was that I did have people that wanted to work with me. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's do that. Right. And so that's how we got that client. My first big client, though, the one that was the most notable and actually allowed me to go and do this on my own, was a restaurant group. They had 4 restaurants and they hired me as their outsourced director of marketing. I learned very quickly, though, that was something I didn't have an interest in doing, was like having to travel up there all the time and be there to take pictures of events and things like that. And, we were talking about sports bars that they were in. So like, I wasn't loving it, but it matched my salary that I was making at the last place. So all the extra money I looked at as gravy. Right. And that was also a mistake. I shouldn't have looked at it that way, because I was able to just spend it without really thinking about with hiring people and whatever, because I was like, oh, well, this is money I never had before, so I'll just keep reinvesting it. But I wasn't reinvesting it smart, in an intelligent way. So that was essentially the first couple of clients I had, and then I just kept adding, right? And it was all different industries, e-commerce, you name it. We were doing mostly website projects, but that's how we grew it to the first $250,000.
How did you get those customers?
Word of mouth.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe's out on his own, right? That was mainly like, I got phone calls that said, "Oh, hey, heard you're out on your own. I've been looking at doing this project and been putting it off. Sure you could use the business. Let's work together."
When did you make your first hire, and like, what was the moment, if there was a moment, that you're like, shit, I need help?
Okay, so my first hire was actually a contractor that I ended up then hiring full time, because I learned a lot through an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization. But the reason I hired him full time, I had just come off of working. It was Thursday, and I had just come off of working an 80-hour work week on Thursday. I hadn't even gotten to Friday yet, and I was in a meeting with in an accelerator. It's called accountability groups. The accelerator program has them, and the mentor of the group asked me to stay afterwards to talk. And I was like, man, I'm so tired. I'd love to just go home, whatever, but okay. And we stayed for another 2 hours, and he just told me story after story after story about him, how he burned out, how, all these different things, and how hiring a person to take a lot off of his plate really allowed him to not only have quality of life, but help to grow his business. And he was running a very successful company. The next day, I extended an offer to this contractor I had been working with for a full-time role. And literally 1 month later, I was only working 60 hours a week versus closer to 90 to 100 hours a week. And that continued to drop as I went. But then I got very hire happy, and I started hiring more people. It's like, oh, okay, you could do this, you could do that, whatever. And there wasn't enough work for a full-time person, and I was paying full-time salaries. So that's really the reason why I hired and when I hired.
I appreciate you sharing that. What is your full-time / contractor split now?
No, so we're all full time.
Okay.
I have one contractor that we work with on a fixed fee, scale up, scale down basis. That's actually not true. We have a couple of contract writers for very specialty niche things, but they're fixed bid, fixed fee things, right? So they don't even they're not even in my variable expenses. They're in my fixed expenses, because when we do a project, I know that their expense is this, and it's not going to change. And so I can actually account for that when doing a project or quoting a project or quoting a client. So I actually have them. I don't even look at them as contractors. I look at them as hard costs.
Yeah, that's great. And I know you have a pretty big focus on your core values. I think it was either on our last conversation or website. Can you share a little bit? Well, let me actually say a little bit more. There are a lot of people that I think, I've talked to that have core values and put it on their website. And I actually just had a conversation about this the other day with the new co-founder that I'm working with, about how there's a difference between people that just put up values on their website and ones that actually implement it and care about them, and it's a huge difference. And you can usually see it in the founder, and there's usually a purpose why. So can you just kind of share a little bit more about what the values are and why you develop them?
Yeah. So great question. So I'll give you a quick little backstory. I have a lot of those. So, but
We're here for them.
so where the company's called 9Sail, right? And initially the nine in the name was the 9-step website process that we had built out. I, again, Built to Sell had a really big impact on my life, that book. And so I thought, hey, I'm going to productize the website part of our business by creating a 9-step website process. Well, when we stopped doing websites, it's like, well, hell, the 9 doesn't have any meaning anymore. So I was like, all right, well, fine, 9 core values. And I'm sitting with a mentor of mine, and he goes, call your best employee. So at the time, I only had a couple. I called Brian, right? And I went to go say, hey, and my mentor ripped the phone out of my hand and goes, hi, my name's, I'm going to make him anonymous. What are the company's core values? And Brian was able to name 4. And then he was pausing, whatever. And he's like, all right, so I'm going to just assume that you're looking up the rest of these. So thank you. You're not in trouble. Thank you for doing that. Right. And hangs up and goes, you need 4 core values, because that's what your people will remember is the 4 core values. So we sat down and really did a lot of thinking and a lot of planning as a group, as a company. We made it a company effort. And so our core values from that point forward ended up becoming make dad proud, extreme ownership, always learn, and raise the bar. Now, fast forward a couple of years, we realized that we just kind of threw those words on paper because they sounded good, but they weren't quite jiving with the people we wanted to hire. So we made some big changes to them, actually in the last couple of years, and most notably, actually in the last couple of months, the meaning of it didn't change, but the words changed in the way that we present it, which was make dad proud. It's now make your heroes proud. And we wanted to do that to make it a little bit more inclusive. But make dad proud was the main reason that I started this business. My dad was diagnosed with ALS in 2013, a few months after I graduated college. And he had said to me that I was there the day he was diagnosed, and he said to me, don't not do something you're going to regret later. Right. And great with words, Dad, but he ultimately means take a risk, right? Don't be afraid, life's short. I understood what he meant by it. And so it took me a couple of years to understand what that meant. And, I said, okay, 2015, I'm going to do this. Right. So, but core values are at the center of hiring for us, firing for us, incentivizing and compensating, bonuses, all that. The core values have to be brought back in. Did somebody exemplify a core value above and beyond what we expect? It's always a conversation for us. And every quarter we revisit our core values to make sure that, are they still on brand? Do they fit everybody? Is there something that's come up that needs to be changed? And again, we don't change our core values often because core values aren't supposed to change all that much. But like I said, this past December, we sat down as a team and said, we need to make dad proud more inclusive, because many people, maybe it's not their dad that's the person that they want to make proud. Maybe it's their mom or their grandparents, or Captain America, right? They, who knows?
Mark McGuire.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah. So exactly, right. So make your heroes proud, which was a recommendation from our marketing director, and that was a hard one for me personally to change and to let go. But I was very glad that he felt comfortable enough to bring that to the table, because I said, you know what, you're totally right. I had to sleep on it, but I was like, you're totally right. I think this is a good move for the company, and so that's why we did it.
Well, first, I really appreciate you telling that story. And I think it does show, the why behind the values. And actually, again, kind of talking to this new co-founder I've been working with, and I was expressing to him, again, this just difference between just plopping it on your website and honestly what I think that you guys do. And the story that I told him, that you told me, was how you actually buy the Extreme Ownership book for all new employees and have them read that. And I think that if there's a tangible difference between people that just put it on their website and actually like apply it to their business, that's one tangible way of actually doing it. I have not read the book yet. It's like number 2 next on my list. But I love Jocko. So
Yeah.
few questions. Yeah, please.
I was just going to say too, and I kept alluding to, we made some changes to the core values, right? And so I shared what they were originally, but so make your heroes proud, extreme ownership, always learn, and work the problem. Our core values, and have held those core values strong for several years, and like that last one of work the problem, man, like that is such a hireable trait that you can really like suss out early in the process. Asking people questions around examples of ways that they've solved certain problems and listening to the way that they did it. And it's not about the problem or the solution they found, but rather like the process they took to get there. So that has just been incredible. And like, you need to read Extreme Ownership. I personally, right, speaking from experience, I've read it so many times. I actually, if we hire multiple people, I will offer to read it alongside them. So we can talk about the chapters as they go. But man, what great life lessons out of that book, not only just business lessons.
You've convinced me to move that above my Tarantino.
All right, good.
I was going to read the Tarantino book next. I'm in Sapiens right now. So, all right, sold. You got me good on that. A few questions at the end that I tend to ask most guests. If you had to teach something to other marketers, what would it be?
Other marketers? You're going to learn more from the failures than the successes. I think that's true in both business and marketing. Things aren't going to work, right? There's a saying, I don't remember who said it, but there's a saying that 50% of the marketing works. We just don't know which 50%. The reason that I love the part of marketing that we're in is that I can pretty much tell what 50% is working or not working. And we hope that it's a lot more than 50% that's working, right? And we can measure that. But you learn a lot more from the failures, because you know not to make those mistakes again, and you know the signs to look for earlier on. And if you don't think that you've experienced a failure big enough to learn from, or you don't feel that a failure has shaped the way that you go about doing something, you're kidding yourself. There's plenty of things that we've learned throughout working with law firms that, certain things work for one type of law firm, but not the other. And so we are able to kind of transfer that knowledge forward as we continue to grow our business. So, you'll learn a lot more from the failures than the successes.
That's great. I think what I typically say about that is you often know the reason why you failed, and you can have a lesson from that. You don't always know why a success happened. And sometimes you think you know, and it actually turns out not to be the reason. And then you start implementing that success reason over and over again. And now you're finding out that it's actually not the reason. So you definitely do learn a lot more because of that reason through your failures than successes. Are you guys looking to hire any positions right now?
Not at the current moment, but that changes probably quarterly. We do have a couple of positions that we have all of the groundwork done for. Like we have, so we have outcome profiles that we build out. So how do we set them up for success? How do they set themselves up for success? We call them job profiles, not job descriptions. So we have job profiles built out because it's a lot more than just here's what you need to do here, but here's who we are. Here's who you need to be and who we want you to be, right? So to be a fit for this role, like hopefully you fall within this general criteria of, and I hate even saying criteria, it's a narrative, right? It's actually a 2-paragraph like description of the person. We want people to read that description and be like, hey, yeah, that's me. Like they just described me. And we use DISC, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we use DISC and we use a couple of other outcome profile type stuff to craft that message. And then literally only not even a quarter of the page is like a couple of the the core responsibilities the person will be responsible for. Because again, it's a lot more about them feeling like they're going to be a good culture fit and them understanding who you need to be successful in the role. So, but we have a couple of things slotted. We're probably going to add 3 to 4 people this year would be our assumption.
Awesome. I honestly just love the way you think. I love that you understand like that the connotation of specific words matter, and just using a word because that's how it's always been used is not necessarily the right word or the right method. So I just want to highlight that real quick. Last question. Any book, you've already mentioned a few, but any book or podcast recommendations?
Built to Sell and Extreme Ownership are huge. Another book my team is required to read upon the first 30 days. So they have 2 books that they really need to read. And, look, we're not sticklers, obviously if, they have life stuff going on, they're busy, whatever, we give them reading time during every day, like our team reads, but, we ask them to read 30 to 45 minutes a day as part of their workday. But What the Heck is EOS is the name of a book. So we run our business on EOS, which is Entrepreneurial Operating System. Some people know it as Traction. But I'm a big fan of, Rocket Fuel and Traction and those books. But I have to tell you too, man, I, as a business owner and somebody that is really works a lot, I even when I'm not at work, I'm thinking about work, and cause it's, it's part of me at this point, right? Maybe down the line, I'll be able to step a little bit further away, but, I do a lot of fiction reading, because it puts me in a different headspace and it allows me to completely disconnect. And I have gotten pretty good at disconnecting. I do have a personal goal around it. So I still do have goals even around some of the personal things I do. And it's to read 30 books this year. I have completed 6.5 as of right now. So I'm a little behind pace. But my goal is to do 30 books this year.
Man, I made a weird noise when you said it, but I love that 30 to 45 minute, like during the workday. That's incredible. I guess
they
I
report
have
on it. Yeah. They report on it too. Like, so every day we do a daily huddle, and the last part of the day, or second to last part of the daily huddle is reading. What did you read today? And our only ask is that at a bare minimum, one of the things that they read is industry specific, industry related. So that way there's always learn, right? An always learn component. But then, people are reading a fiction book. Somebody's reading a nonfiction book. Somebody's reading a biography, right? Like, totally cool. But make sure that you're continuing to grow yourself during that time, professionally as well as personally.
Oh, love it. And as we come to the end of the episode, I just want to give you an opportunity to mention how people can find you and anything else you'd like to end with.
Yeah. So thanks. So 9sail.com is our website. Take a look. You can reach out to us there. I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out there too. But I love talking to other entrepreneurs. I love talking to agency owners and firm owners like mine, right? And so always down to have a good conversation. And I really appreciate you having me on, man. This is incredible. I've been looking forward to this for a couple of weeks. So thanks for doing this.
Dude, this is great. The whole show, I think, honestly, this episode from start to finish, you were just saying a whole bunch of valuable stuff. So I thank you for coming on the show. And for those of you who've learned something new on this episode, please consider giving us a like or a follow so we can obviously continue getting the highest quality of guests. And as always, thank you for listening. Joe, thank you so much for this. This was great.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Masters in Marketing Agency podcast. I hope you got a ton of value out of this episode. And before we go, I just want to thank our sponsors, DevNoodle. DevNoodle provides marketing agencies with the ability to offer their clients unlimited website design, build, and management services with fixed monthly plans. If website design, development, and maintenance is holding your agency back from growing, please reach out to us at devnoodle.com, where we make websites easy for you and easy for your clients. devnoodle.com.